On the previous video, you heard me talk about whether or not I was going to add some additional base plates. Well, very quickly, the answer to that question is yes. Here's what the updated layout now looks like for the MOC. I've added a fourth 48 by 48 base plate. You can see up top right. Essentially what's happened is the swamp is effectively extended into two 32 by 32 base plates. The rock work has really become a cave, which I kind of anticipated all along. And then this is going to change a little bit of the format and the length of the overall MOC. I plan on extending the road a little bit. I do still plan on having the separatist MTT and ATTs in an attacking mode. So let's get into the cave now. The MOC starts out like any other. We're kind of getting the base plate ready here. What the difference here is I have a 16 by 16 base plate in the middle that's going to really form the bottom of the cave. So that's kind of giving me a frame of reference in terms of where I want that cave to be. Now around it, I am using the BURP pieces, the big ugly rock piece, to kind of form a skeleton, if you will, about what that cave is going to look like. And I'm also trying, at least attempting, to create a bit of depth within the middle of the base plate so that the around the outskirts of the base plate are a little bit higher, and then it gets this feeling that you go into the cave. So I'm pleased with how this is turning out. Now we're going to start adding some detail with the rest of my pieces. So here goes. This is about the best setup I can muster for continuing to work on my cave here for part of the Felucia MOC. So I have assembled all of my rockwork pieces. You would think I'd be better at this with the number of pieces that I have, but it doesn't correlate that way. So let's see how we get on. There is one thing for sure about doing this kind of work in Lego, and that is the excellence really comes from iteration. There's a story or a parable or something like that that I remember hearing a long time ago about a pottery lesson where there's two groups. Group A will be graded on quantity, i.e. the more pots you produce, the higher the grade. And then the group B will be graded on quality and like just make one perfect pot. And group A always wins. And when I think about doing rock work in Lego, it just screams to me, this is all about doing it and repetition and just practicing. I spend an awful lot of time watching YouTube tutorials on rock work and thinking about, when I buy a set, what matters in terms of reading the instructions and ideas on how to build out the perfect cliff face, etc. But it was fascinating when I built this. First off, you make a ton of mistakes. You kind of learn from your mistakes. And then every once in a while I would see something or do something and I'd be like, wow, I like the way that looks. You almost enter a kind of flow, I feel like, when you do this. So overall, I was pretty pleased with how this went. There were definitely some areas where I probably could have done better. I probably should have spent a little bit more time tweaking it and iterating and kind of coming back to it. But overall, I was really pleased with, I don't know, the iteration that I got into. It's never going to be perfect. But in watching a lot of other YouTubers, I realized that this is really just a repetition game. The more you do it, the cleaner it gets, and the more you get into this flow where it becomes a very normal thing to do. As far as my technique goes, I definitely don't regret using the BURP pieces. I do think that they help me in framing things out. They definitely save on pieces, excuse me. So that made a lot of sense. But one thing I probably should have done more of was SNOT, studs not on top. And just really, I think if I want to make vertical walls in particular, which is really what a lot of this is, there's just no substitute for kind of going straight and then building up a vertical wall. So that's what you can see me doing here on this kind of final wall. You can see me really just creating this big flat piece and planning in my head on, okay, we're just going to go straight up and build this big SNOT piece that's going to attach in there and really save me a ton of work. So here I am finally building that. Again, this probably was a lesson learned, and I think in the future
I'm going to copy this technique a little bit more frequently in building that on. And now the moment has come. There's a builder I watch a lot named Coconut Bricks, and he's an amazing builder. He's had a YouTube channel. He's got thousands of followers for many years. But I was watching one of his channels recently, and he kind of made the joke that I will make here about this is one of those situations where I really had no idea how this was going to go. And I just was like, oh, we're just going to hack at it and make it work. It is Lego after all. And eventually, if you throw enough pieces at it in strange angles, you will get things to work. So that was really my mantra here was just get this thing to stay on the top. A couple challenges that I did run into. One was the overall cave is still, despite my best efforts, more square than I wanted it to be. I really was trying to make it a little bit more circular. Here you can see I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. My son actually came down and helped me, but I still feel like it was far too square in terms of what I wanted it to end up. Probably hindsight 2020, using a 16 by 16 piece for the bulk of the roof probably doomed me from the beginning. But overall, I'm very, very pleased. And now we'll kind of cut to the end shot and you can see what this thing looks like. Here's the completed cave for the build. I've given several different views of it. I don't think we need to hash through that too much. I'm very, very happy with the way this turned out. I am by no means an expert brick, cave builder or wall builder, etc. But I really am pleased with the way it came out. I think it looks in line with what my abilities are. I did put a couple areas here with open holes. I'm going to put some either. I'm not sure if I'm going to put crystals in there or if it's going to be some plant life, etc. But I have a couple ideas on that. The top I left kind of relatively open. I do plan on putting some plants up there. Obviously, we need to detail this out with additional plant life and everything else. But I will now take this opportunity to put in one of the secrets, so to speak, and that is this guy. So this is a Felucia Rancor purchased from the American Brick Store. Super cool. Love the colorings, love the markings on it. So this is a kind of a knockoff. Well, actually, I'm sure it's Lego. It's just excuse me. It's Lego. It's printed. That's all. So I always find myself with these third-party, pad printed Lego sets and custom minifigures and everything else. A couple of years ago, I was like, no way, I'll never buy those. And now every time I go to these websites, I'm like, wow, they are so cool. They just look amazing. So this looks like a really cool big fig. So I'm really looking forward to incorporating him into the MOC. And we'll see how it looks. And there you have it. The Rancor in the cave fits perfectly. Very pleased with the way this turned out. Might put him in a tiny bit deeper and see if I get the shadow even a little bit better. There we go. Awesome. Hope you enjoy. See you next week.